Hi, what I'm going to do is I am going to read the midterm review packet. And when you get to a stop sign, I want you to pause it, do the notes, and then you can call me over. And I can check them or I can help you, okay? And when I mean call me over, I don't mean me that's talking now. I mean me from the future. Okay. So here we go. Follow along as I read. Okay, we just studied 1648 to 1917. 1648 to 1917, time of revolutions, nationalism, and the age of steel. There's a little picture that shows nationalism, all the different nations. History is a lot like high school. It's mostly boring, but there are some days when everyone gets really excited for no reason, like a pep rally, or a fight, or a soccer game. So, everyone gets really excited, and for a little bit, everyone forgets about their problems. Then, things get out of control. People do things they regret. Later, they apologize on Facebook, but that doesn't stop them from doing it. It's funny. From 1648 to 1917, we see the same thing in history. There are big changes, and there is hope that things will get better. People find the secret for the future. But it turns out that just like in high school, everything can go wrong. And they didn't even have Facebook to post about it later. Okay, so this means that in history, there's changes. People think they know the secret, like democracy, but stuff goes wrong. Let's start in 1648. In 1648, the 30 Years' War is over. The 30 Years' War was terrible. It is Protestant versus Catholic, neighbor versus neighbor. Europeans want stability. Stability is the opposite of war and terror. Okay, 30 Years' War is about Protestant Catholic. It's the Reformation. That's from before. Why is it important? Because people want stability. What's going to happen when they want stability? You can keep going. There's no notes for this part. What's going to happen when people want stability? So begins the time of absolute monarchs and the new nation state. The absolute monarchs get power because people are tired of chaos and fighting. They expand their power, make their country bigger. They do this through war and strategy. The strategy is called centralization. They invite the rich people to join their kingdom. If they do, then they get a good position in the government. If they don't, the absolute monarch makes war. Okay, so now we're talking about absolute monarchs. They make nations or states and new countries. They get their power because of the chaos and the fighting, but they expand their power through a strategy called centralization. Centralization is you invite rich people to join the kingdom. If they do, you give them a good position, a good job. If they don't, war. And when we're talking about nobles here, nobles. The absolute monarch of France is Louis XIV. He is called the Sun King. He builds a big palace outside of Paris in a place called Versailles. He invites the nobles to live part of the year with him. When they come, he makes them serve him. Okay, so this is more centralization. We're talking about Louis XIV of France, the Sun King. He builds a palace called Versailles, a castle, and he invites the nobles to live with him, and when they come, they have to serve him. If they don't come, he makes war on them. There's Louis. There's a noble. I think he's giving him a foot massage. Nice. This is Versailles. It's a giant palace outside of Paris. All the nobles would live in the little rooms here, but Louis got the best room. The absolute monarch of Russia is Peter the Great. Russia is in the east, so it's not like Europe. Peter makes a plan of westernization. This means he copies Europe. He cuts the nobles' beards, for example. He moves the capital from Moscow to St. Petersburg, so it's closer to Europe. Okay, so Russia's Peter the Great. And Russia's in the east, and he wants to be like the west, like Europe, so his plan is westernization. Copy Europe. And his big thing is making a new capital in St. Petersburg, so it's close to Europe. This is Peter the Great. This is a church in St. Petersburg. And one example of westernization is beer. He tries to get people to drink beer instead of vodka. Okay, now I want you to fill out your notes for absolutism. Call me over when you finish so I can check them, then you can continue the video. So you can pause it right here. Now we're going to talk about England in the 1600s. England doesn't have absolute monarchs. England is exceptional. That means special. They always have a kind of democracy. They have a parliament. Its powers grow even when the king tries to take it away. When King Charles I tries to make himself absolute monarch and dismiss Parliament, they execute him. The Puritan leader who executes Charles I is called Oliver Cromwell. Okay, so England is different because of Parliament. And this is in the 1600s. Parliament's powers grow. King's powers decrease. First happens when this King Charles tries to make himself absolute monarch, and he sends away Parliament. He's executed, and Oliver Cromwell takes power. Here's the execution of Charles. The people who executed him, they are going to go and hunt them down after Oliver Cromwell dies. And they're going to kill him. Oliver Cromwell leads the Roundheads. They make a new government called the Commonwealth. There is no king. But Oliver Cromwell is too boring and makes everything illegal. Okay, remember, he makes dancing illegal, you have to go to church or you get beaten. Parliament invites back a king. His name is Charles II, and he is from France. Okay, so this Charles II speaks French. This is called the Restoration. Restoring the king. Charles II is okay, but the next king is stupid. His name is James II. Why is he stupid? He makes Parliament angry. So they invite over William and Mary. This is called the Glorious Revolution. Okay, so a couple things happen here. Oliver Cromwell, no king. They have a commonwealth. It's a pure democracy. But Oliver Cromwell is too religious, and when he dies, Parliament invites back the king. The king they get is Charles II from France. He's the party king. He just has parties, parties, parties. Okay, this is called the Restoration. While Charles is having parties, 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 Parliament's power is increasing. Okay? It's going up. Charles II is okay, but the next king is stupid, so the next king makes Parliament angry, and Parliament invites these two people, William and Mary, over. This is called the Glorious Revolution. Glorious means really good. What's really good about it? Nobody had to die. All the time, Parliament's power is increasing. This is Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell, look, he looks very serious. He's got the strict religious clothes. Charles II looks like a big party animal. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. We got James II and William and Mary. England is different because they are more democratic. Parliament becomes stronger and stronger while all of this nonsense is going on. They make a law called the English Bill of Rights. This makes Parliament stronger. England is a true constitutional monarchy. There are two political parties, the Tories and the Liberals. This follows the idea of conservative and liberal. England makes slavery illegal at first, so England is democratic before the Enlightenment, before liberalism, and before the ages of revolution. Okay, so let's look at this. 1600s, this is before all this stuff, before the Enlightenment, before revolutions. England is democratic. Slavery is illegal. There's two parties, political parties, Tories and Liberals, just like conservative and liberal. And Parliament is strong. They even have a Bill of Rights, the English Bill of Rights, which guarantees citizens' rights. This happens much before the rest of Europe. But England is still a constitutional monarchy. England is still a constitutional monarchy. They still have a king. They still do today. Okay, so now what I want you to do is go and fill out the notes for England. Call me when you're done and I'll check. Don't forget to pause now. Welcome back. Now we're at the time of revolutions. The time of revolutions happens in the 1700s. In the 1700s, there are changes. This next period is the Age of Revolutions. This happens because of new ideas from the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment ideas demand representative government and democracy. This is called liberalism. So the 1700s is the rise of liberalism and the Age of Revolution. Okay, here's some pictures. Can you guess what these pictures are from?
I don't know what they're from. They represent the Enlightenment.
Good job, Mr. Hammond. A+ for Mr. Hammond. Okay, so the Enlightenment opposes absolutism. The Enlightenment promotes representative government. The Enlightenment is a time when the new ideas are shared in public. Most of these ideas support a new government. The government that they prefer is representative. Representative government is like democracy. Okay, so the Enlightenment is a time of ideas for a new government, a democratic government, a representative government. There is one philosopher who doesn't support democracy. He is Thomas Hobbes. He writes Leviathan. He says that people are evil. He supports absolute monarchy. Hobbes, absolute monarchy, people are evil. Here's Leviathan. The rest of them support democracy. John Locke supports democracy. He writes 2 treatises on government. He writes that people have natural rights. These rights can't be taken away. People consent to be governed. They give their permission to the leader. So if the leader is bad, they can have a revolution. So John Locke is democratic. He's a philosopher. John Locke is natural rights, life, liberty, and property. People consent to be governed. They give permission to the leader, so consent of the governed. There's John Locke. And let me just add here. Can I add life, liberty, and property? Don't forget that. That's John Locke. Another philosopher is named Rousseau. Rousseau writes about this. He writes there is a social contract. The people give permission to the leader. It is a deal. If it is broken, then there can be a revolution. Okay, so this is Rousseau. Rousseau, social contract. Montesquieu is another Enlightenment philosopher. He makes a plan for democracy. Democracy needs to have a separation of powers. The president can't get too powerful or he will become a dictator. So this is Montesquieu, and he's the separation of powers: executive, legislative, and judicial. Voltaire is another Enlightenment philosopher. He makes a plan for what to do about religion. He doesn't support a national religion or official religion. He supports religious toleration and separation of church and state. So this is Voltaire, Enlightenment, separation of church and state, and also religious toleration. This is Voltaire. This is one of his famous plays, Candide. Okay, so now I want you to stop here and answer the questions for Enlightenment. Pause. Now we're on to the American Revolution. The American Revolution is the first revolution that uses the Enlightenment. The Americans are a colony of England. The leaders of America follow the Enlightenment ideas. So American Revolution is Enlightenment, influenced by the Enlightenment. There's some patriots. Thomas Jefferson writes the Declaration of Independence. This is a letter to the King of England. The letter says, "Dear King, you broke the social contract. We want our natural rights, so we are having a revolution. Sincerely, the USA." Okay, so Thomas Jefferson, Declaration of Independence, it's a letter to the King of England. It's saying you broke the social contract. So he uses Rousseau and he uses John Locke in his arguments. This is the Declaration of Independence. This is Thomas Jefferson. This is the Declaration of Independence, July 4th. The USA wins the revolution. They defeat England. They make a new constitution. This is the U.S. Constitution. It is the oldest constitution in the world. It is the first constitution to use the Enlightenment ideas. So U.S. Constitution, oldest in the world, uses Enlightenment ideas. This is the Constitution. The ideas that the U.S. Constitution uses are separations of powers from Montesquieu. There are 3 branches of government, and there is a separation of church and state. This is from Voltaire. So from Montesquieu, separations of powers. From Voltaire, separations of church and state. Look at these pictures. Sorry. Now what I want you to do is go and answer the questions about the American Revolution, okay? I'm going to do my hair. Now the French Revolution. The American Revolution ends in 1787. The French Revolution begins in 1789. The French Revolution is the biggest revolution because France is the most important country in Europe. It is important because it fails. It gets out of control, and Napoleon takes power. The French Revolution happens because there is a famine. People are hungry. French people are starving. King Louis the XVI wants to raise taxes. So he calls a meeting of the French Parliament called the État Général. Okay, so French Revolution happens after American. French Revolution is the biggest revolution because France is important, also because they have a king. It's important because it doesn't work. It goes too far, it gets out of control, and Napoleon takes power. Happens because of a famine. They want to raise taxes, so they have to call the États Généraux. The États Généraux are the 3 estates: the clergy, the nobility, and everyone else. These guys pay lots of taxes. These guys don't pay any. These guys don't pay any. The État Général never meets. The État Général is unequal. The common people are the 3rd estate. They have no power, and they pay all the taxes. When they demand more power, King Louis the XVI locks them out. They make the tennis court oath and start a new government. The French Revolution begins. They attack the Bastille jail and get weapons. So the Third Estate gets locked out. They go on a tennis court and they start a new government. Then they attack this Bastille jail and they get weapons. This is them taking the tennis court oath to make a constitution. And this is attacking the Bastille jail and stealing the weapons. I think they let like 6 prisoners out. The new constitution is called the General Assembly. They start to make a new constitution, but they have a problem. Some French nobles leave the country. They go to Austria and got the Austrian Empire to attack France. So there is a war. The leader of the General Assembly gets nervous. His name is Robespierre. Okay, this is how things get out of control. They have a General Assembly, but the nobles, the rich people, leave the country. They go to Austria where there's a king, and they convince the king to attack France. There's a war, and the leader of the General Assembly gets out of control. He's Robespierre. What does he do? He starts killing nobles. Then he starts killing clergy. Then he starts killing everybody. Robespierre starts executing people in the guillotine. This is called the Reign of Terror. He is executed. And this shows the Reign of Terror here. And what it's going to lead to is Napoleon. Reign of Terror is going to lead to Napoleon. Why? People are tired. They want a strong leader. There is chaos. A general takes power. His name is Napoleon Bonaparte. Here's an explanation that they did about why he has his hand in his shirt. Okay, now I want you to fill out the stuff for French Revolution. Napoleon attacks Austria, Spain, Italy, and Prussia. He wins and puts his family in charge. He rules a new empire called the French Empire. It's also called the Continental System. His empire has a big effect on the rest of the world. There's the French Empire. In Latin America, there are revolutions when Napoleon comes to power. Latin America is divided. The most powerful people are called the officers, or peninsulares. They are from Spain. Then there are the Creoles, criollos. Then they are white people who are born in America. But most of America is mixed people. They are mestizos, or Indians, or slaves. They don't have power. So the revolution in Latin America happens because of Napoleon. He takes over Spain. The Creoles have a revolution against the officers. But they're also afraid of the mestizos, the Indians, and the slaves. This is Spanish society. When Napoleon comes, the Creoles kick out the officers. They make new countries, but they keep the mixed people under control. The Creole who liberates Bolivia, Colombia, and Venezuela is called Simón Bolívar. The Creole who liberates Argentina and Peru is called José de San Martín. So, Bolívar, Bolivia, North, Colombia, Venezuela, San Martín, Argentina, and Peru. And they're both Creoles. Mexico is different. There is an Indian revolution. The leader is Father Hidalgo, but it is stopped. The Creoles stop it because they hate the Indians. Mexico always has problems until they have a real revolution in 1910. So in Mexico they have a revolution of the Indians and it's stopped by the Creoles. Then they have their own revolution. But before Bolívar and San Martín, there's Toussaint Louverture. He is a black man from the island of Haiti. During the French Revolution, Haiti becomes free. Toussaint fights against the English and the Spanish. Haiti was mostly black slaves, so this is a big deal. Napoleon comes to power and he says, "Sorry, you have to be slaves again because I need more money." Toussaint fights against the French. Haiti gets its independence, but it's all black people, so everyone treats them bad for the next 150 years. Okay, so Haiti has a revolution right after France, but it's all black people who were slaves. So they have to fight everybody. They have to fight Spain, England, and France. Finally, they get their independence, but everyone ignores them because they're black. This is Toussaint Louverture. This is the revolution. And there's the hero, Simón Bolívar, San Martín Louverture, Padre Hidalgo, and the Haitian Revolution. Now we're going to talk about the United States during the 1700s and 1800s. Napoleon needs money, and he doesn't have Haiti, so he sells a big part of America to the United States, all this. All of a sudden, the United States is very big. They are a democracy too. So here's all the United States at this time. This territory they're going to take from Mexico later, and this they're going to take from Mexico later. This they're buying from Napoleon. Thomas Jefferson likes France, but James Monroe doesn't. He doesn't like Europe. He makes a doctrine or proclamation. This is the Monroe Doctrine. It says that America controls the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine warns Europeans not to interfere in the Americas. Originally, it's to protect democracy, but later, during the age of imperialism, it's to protect business. So this is the Monroe Doctrine, and it's to protect the Western Hemisphere for democracy. Later, business. This is a great picture. Here's the West. There's USA saying, "Stay out, Europeans, stay back in Europe." Okay, now I want you to fill out the section for Latin American revolutions. Okay, you can pause now. Don't forget to call me so I can check over. Now Napoleon. Back to Napoleon. Napoleon gets his money. He makes war on Austria and wins. Next, he wants to beat Russia. He invades Russia with 500,000 men. The Russians use the scorched earth tactic to beat him. They burn their villages and food, so Napoleon can't get it. Okay, so Napoleon's mistake. He invades Russia. The Russians burn all their food and villages, so he can't get it. This is Napoleon's army going into Russia, and the Russians burning their town. The Russians burn their capital, Moscow, so even though Napoleon wins, he has to go back to France. There's nothing for him. He retreats in winter. It is so cold that most of his men die. Okay, this is Napoleon retreating, going back, even though he won. So Napoleon gets beat twice. The first time he is sent to Elba, an island near Italy. The second time he is sent to St. Helena. Now Napoleon's a crazy dude. When he goes to Elba, he actually builds an army and he makes everybody in his army. So what do they have to do? What do they have to do? They have to send him to the middle of Africa, middle of the ocean. This is St. Helena. So he lives the rest of his life here. Why don't they kill him? Because he's a hero. This is Napoleon looking off into the distance. Okay, stop and fill out the section about Napoleon. The age of revolutions doesn't end with Napoleon. People still want liberalism. They want revolutions. Liberalism means democratic revolutions. But things get way out of control, so it's time to cool down. The European nations that win get together. They have the Congress of Vienna. They meet to keep a balance of power in Europe. Okay, so age of revolutions doesn't really end. People still want democracy. But it's time to relax. And there's a Congress that meets to keep the balance of power. Congress of Vienna wants to stop revolutions and keep Napoleon from coming along again, another Napoleon. They are conservative. They don't want change. They want tradition. They want monarchy. They want old Europe. Their leader is Metternich. Every revolution that breaks out, they try to stop. The conservatives want to stop liberal revolutions. Okay, so we have a new group, conservatives. They don't want change. They want tradition. Okay? And their leader is Metternich. They want balance of power. There's Metternich. He's riding a burro. And there's some flags over here. German flag. That must be about nationalism. Okay, so now we're in the age of nationalism. And we got a couple things I want to show you. There's no Germany. There's no Italy. There's just this Austrian Empire over here, this Ottoman Empire over here, this confederation. That's not a country, that's a group. And Italy is a big mess. There's a kingdom here, papal states, a bunch of little kingdoms here. So really the only united place right now is France. And of course Spain and Portugal and England. Europe has changed. Europeans are more nationalistic. This is partly because of Napoleon. Napoleon rules over so many other countries, people start to love their own country more. Europeans are more liberal. Liberal is the opposite of conservative. Liberals want representative governments. They hate monarchies and tradition. They want a new Europe. So liberalism keeps growing, nationalism grows. What's going to happen? Stop right here and fill out the next section. So history is like school. Sometimes there are times when students get really crazy and it feels like things are going to explode. Students feel happy and angry at the same time. Bipolar! But the teacher changes their focus. He turns on a movie or they play a game and stuff calms down. And this is what happens after 1848. I'm going to give away the ending. There's a bunch of revolutions in 1848 and they all fail, just like the French Revolution. Actually, there's even another Napoleon. His name is Napoleon III. So again, nothing gets solved. 1848 doesn't solve anything. 1848 is a failure. And 1848 leads to communism, imperialism, World War I and World War II. So what happened in 1848? It's what doesn't happen. The year is 1848. Europeans are waiting for something to happen. Napoleon is gone for almost 40 years. Some revolutions have happened, but nothing big. This is balance of power time. Liberals are pushing for a change. The ideas of the Enlightenment are still strong, but things are a bit different. And this is in France. Again, they took over Paris. The poor people took over Paris, again pushing for the democratic revolution in 1848. But there's new stuff. Industrialization has started. So there are factories, there's railroads and new technologies. And urbanization has happened. People live in crowded cities. They meet together and talk about new ideas. So this is industrialization. Urbanization means people living in cities. When people live in cities, they talk. And there's new ideas. This is another revolution. And look, what we have now is more nationalistic revolutions. Instead of just we want democracy, we want our country. We want France. This is the last chance of Enlightenment ideas. The Enlightenment and liberalism is all about representative democracy. But when it fails in 1848, people start loving new ideas more, like nationalism and Marxism. Okay, so in 1848, the Enlightenment is still there, democracy is still there, but there's new ideas. This is Marxism. Marxism is workers take over. Workers take over, get rid of all the property, no private property. Okay, so that's not Enlightenment. No life, liberty, and property, it's everybody is equal. Nationalism is your country is most important. That's not Enlightenment either. It's all mixing together. Nationalism is the idea that people need their own country. If you speak a language, then you should have your own country. So there shouldn't be large, multi-ethnic empires. Multi-ethnic means a lot of people. Okay, so if I go back, nationalism means this should not exist. Because this is Austrian Empire, but it's not all Austrian people. There's Germans here, there's Ivana's people here, there's Russians here, there's Poles here, there's Italians here. This shouldn't exist. Marxism is a new movement that believes the worker should take over factories. There shouldn't be private property. Everyone should be equal. Okay, so Marxism and communism is the same thing. Workers' revolution. No private property. 1848 is the last chance of the Enlightenment. There are democratic revolutions across Europe. Every country in Europe has a revolution, but they are all stopped. The conservatives win. They win again. The balance of power is restored. Nothing changes, but everything changes. Because working people don't care about John Locke anymore. They can choose Marxism or nationalism. In 100 years, we're going to have the Nazis, nationalism, versus the communists, Marxism. So there's new ideas. All of a sudden, democracy isn't the answer to everything, because it keeps failing. Democratic revolution is seen as the first step. This is a picture of a nationalism. This is during this time the Germans made up stories about the Viking women and how strong they are and how much better they are. And this is a poster about Marxism. The workers are having the revolution. See the smoke in the background? Worker revolution, labor. So nationalism starts with Napoleon and his control of Europe. He does some good things like the Napoleonic Code, but he makes people angry. They become nationalistic. He makes German and Spanish people fight for France, and that causes bad feelings and nationalism. So nationalism starts with Napoleon, of course. But nationalism doesn't become strong until later when there is new culture. One example is music. Before the 1800s, music is for rich people in their houses. After the 1800s, they have big theaters for the public, so they make nationalistic music in the vernacular, in the common language, like Mozart and Wagner. Okay, so nationalism, after the 1800s, starts being more for the public. Nationalism leads to the unification of two very important countries. The countries are Italy and Germany. It is difficult to believe that they didn't exist until the end of the 1800s, but they didn't. Italy and Germany are part of the Austrian Empire. This is the Catholic Empire of the Habsburgs. They fight the Protestants in the 30 Years' War. Okay, so now it's a time of unification. The unification is of Italy and Germany. It's hard to believe, but Italy and Germany didn't exist, and they're going to unify. This is Garibaldi from the south, and from the north is Cavour. Cavour and Garibaldi, the heroes of Italy, Italia. We're talking about the age of nationalism, so we talk about fathers now and not liberators, right? Simón Bolívar is the liberator. George Washington's a liberator. Now we're talking about fathers. The age of revolutions is over. The fathers of Italy are Cavour and Garibaldi. Cavour is from the north, Garibaldi is from the south. They join together and kick out Austria and make Italy. But Italy is not united. This is going to be important when we talk about fascism and World War II. So Cavour, Garibaldi unite Italy, but there's going to be some problems, and it's going to become something called fascism. The father of Germany is Otto von Bismarck. This is Bismarck. Kaiser Wilhelm is the king of Prussia. He hires Otto von Bismarck as chancellor. Bismarck is aggressive. He attacks Austria. He attacks France. He wins. He says Germany will be united through blood and iron. He believes in realpolitik. This means that you get what you want through force, not through talking. Okay, so the father of Germany is Bismarck. Kaiser Wilhelm is the king. What you need to know about Bismarck is realpolitik. You get what you want through fighting, and of course, blood and iron. Okay, now I want you to fill out the next portion. Go ahead and pause it here. England and France have nationalism, but they don't need unification. They are united. They turn their energy to Africa and Asia. Okay, so this next part is about English and France. This is the time of imperialism. They make new colonies in Africa and Asia. The reason they make these colonies is to get new resources. Soon, France and England control most of the Eastern Hemisphere. They can do this because they have new weapons, like the machine gun, and new transportation, like the steamboat and the railroad. Okay, so now we're talking about England and France, imperialism, colonies, and why do they have colonies? Here's the colonial empires. Look, England, doot 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 doot. France, doot 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 doot. England, doot doot doot. France, doot doot doot. These little green ones are Germany. Germany doesn't have a big empire. England starts imperialism in India. A big company called the British East India Company controls a lot of northern India. They treat the workers unfairly. There is resistance, and that's called the Sepoy Mutiny. The Sepoys are Indian soldiers who fight back. The Queen of England uses this as an excuse. She sends the soldiers to India. India becomes part of the British Empire. Okay, so imperialism starts in India with the British East India Company, but they treat the workers unfairly, bad, and there's resistance, Sepoy Mutiny. So the Queen of England sends soldiers, and India becomes part of the British Empire. England moves into Africa. They take South Africa, East Africa, and Egypt. Some places are colonies, some places are protectorates. In both, some Africans cooperate with the British, but in general, they have to agree to unfair European terms. The British also control the Suez Canal. Okay, so the British control Suez, South Africa, East Africa, and Egypt, and they have protectorates. France moves into North Africa, places like Algeria and Tunisia. France never becomes as powerful as England, but their colonies give them pride. Even the Belgians have a colony in the Congo. The colony is famous for atrocities or cutting people's hands off who didn't work. The main reason for imperialism are nationalism and industrialization. Nationalism is like the French being proud of their colonies. Industrialization is the new economy with factories and new products. The colonies are great places to sell raw materials and goods. Okay, so look, why imperialism? We got nationalism and we got industrialization. Nationalism, being proud. Industrialization, new products, raw materials, new markets. Imperialism in Asia is different. China gets divided up into lots of little colonies called spheres of influence. China, spheres of influence. The Europeans, Americans, and Japanese do this because they don't want to fight each other over China. The Chinese emperor is weak, so he lets them do it. So this is them carving up China. These are the spheres of influence. Spheres of influence in China. There is a rebellion called the Boxer Rebellion. The Chinese people try to kick out the foreigners. They lose, but the Chinese emperor has to ask for help from the Europeans and Americans. Okay, so there's a rebellion. They lose. But Japan becomes an imperialist power. Japan becomes like Europe and America. They get scared when an American warship comes to Japan. They have a rebellion and start to industrialize. They take over part of China. They start to take over the Pacific Islands. This is going to cause a war with the USA later. Okay, so Japan also becomes imperialist. And they start to industrialize, and they start to take over these islands here. Okay, now I want you to fill out the imperialism section. Okay, I'm going to pause it here. Okay. In the 1400s, France, England, and Germany are competing. They are militarizing. They have big armies. France and England have colonies, but Germany is powerful. There is an alliance system. France is allies with Russia, England is allies with France, and they don't like Germany. Germany is allies with Austria-Hungary. I'm sure you remember all this. Franz Ferdinand is from Austria, and he is killed. Austria-Hungary threatens Serbia. Serbia asks for help from Russia. Austria-Hungary asks for help from Germany. Russia asks for help from France, and this is World War I. That's the alliance system. This is Franz Ferdinand Gabrielo Princeps killing Franz Ferdinand, and this is World War I. The immediate cause of World War I is Franz Ferdinand, but the deeper causes are competition, alliance system, diplomatic failures, militarism, and imperialism. So let's look at these causes. This is the alliance system. And because of the alliance system, we have diplomatic failures. We've got nationalism and militarism. Germany starts building up their army because they don't have colonies. If you look at the colonies, Germany has very little colonies. So they say, hey, we're going to make Europe a colony. World War I is horrible. There is trench warfare and nobody wins any territory. There are machine guns and poison gas. It's a picture of trench warfare and a machine gun and poison gas. 6,000 people die every day. The war goes from 1914 to 1918. In 1917, the USA joins the war. They join with the Allied powers against the Central Powers. They join for two big reasons. The US joins because of the Lusitania, the ship getting sunk, and also because of the Zimmerman telegram. The telegram says that Mexico should join against the USA. There's a typical Mexican. And there's a German. So that's Lusitania, Zimmerman telegram. Here's a map of the sides in World War I. At the same time, Russia leaves the war. The Russian Revolution happens in 1917. It's not a democratic revolution, it's communist. The new country is called the USSR. The new leader is Vladimir Lenin, and they make peace with Germany. So Russia's out. I like this dude's hair, by the way. There's the new USSR. Germany can't fight the USA. The USA is fresh and Germany is tired. Many Germans are angry at their king, Kaiser Wilhelm. He escapes Germany. There's a rebellion, and there's a new government called the Weimar Republic, and they surrender. World War I is over. Okay, so now I want you to work on the World War I section. Pause it. This is a lot of work, man. You must hate your teacher. So there's a peace treaty. The treaty is called Versailles. Germany is not invited. It is dominated. Versailles is dominated by France and England. The USA is there too. So France and England want to punish Germany. The US president, Woodrow Wilson, wants to make peace and prevent war. The goal of France and England is to punish Germany. There's Versailles. And we see that Versailles is going to lead to a lot of bad stuff, like World War II. Germany has to sign a war guilt clause saying they started the war. They have to pay reparations. They have to disarm. They can't have an army. So Versailles, war guilt clause, reparations, which is money, and disarm, which is no weapons. There's Germany under the weight of the reparations. Woodrow Wilson wants some positives. He makes a League of Nations. This is like a Congress for all the countries. The only problem is that Germany and USSR aren't invited. Also, there is no army, and the USA doesn't join. So the League of Nations is weak. Okay, so Wilson makes League of Nations. It's like a Congress. Germany's not invited. There's no army, and the USA doesn't join. So it's weak. Woodrow Wilson makes the mandate system. This is for the Ottoman Empire. The idea is to prepare the Arabs for independence by making colonies called mandates. This becomes a problem later. So mandate system in the old Ottoman Empire for the Arabs, and it becomes a problem later. Okay, so here's European territory in the Middle East. This is the mandate system. The Treaty of Versailles is a failure. The punitive nature brings Hitler. Punitive, punish. The reparations bring the Great Depression. The League of Nations fails. The mandate system is racist. Nothing really works well, and World War II happens. So this is Versailles. 30 years later, Hitler is in Paris. And this is the United States not joining the League of Nations. Okay, so in our next unit, we're going to look at Hitler, we're going to look at industrialization, we're going to look at communism and the Great Depression. Okay, so now I want you to finish the last part. When you're done, call me over. Not me right now, me from the future. Okay, thank you.